Okay, so let's talk about why we enable. Let me fix this here. So I don't know what you're seeing on this, so you can see my whole picture. Let's talk about why we enable. We enable to get relief from our discomfort, right? Like we either want relief from the discomfort of our kids asking us for stuff that we don't want to give them, but we feel uncomfortable saying no, or we just get wore down over time. Another reason that we enable, another thing we want relief from, is we want relief from the discomfort of our discomfort about our kids' discomfort. So that's something that we really have to build that muscle for, is tolerating our discomfort about our kids' discomfort. And the other part of that is that we need things to do in place of enabling so that we can get that relief. And I also want to point out here that that is why our kids use substances as well. They use substances because they want relief and they don't have another way to get it. So I think it's really important to see the similarities between ourselves and our kids so that we can have compassion for them, because trust me, they can feel that difference in us when we're focused on our similarities instead of our differences, and we're having compassion instead of judgment. Like we bring a different energy to our relationship with them. And I also just want to point out, like, if you have been enabling, have compassion for yourself that this is hard and you didn't know a better way until now. You're here in this class, you're trying to learn a better way. So I want you to have compassion for yourself that this is hard. Compassion is so important on this journey because what we're going through is not easy, right? Like, this is not what we imagined parenting would be like, what our experience would be like. And so practicing compassion for yourself also makes it easier for you to practice compassion for your child. So when you think about enabling, I don't want you to think about it in this black or white way. Like, you have to create gray area for yourself. I can't give you a list of things and say, okay, these things here are enabling all the time, and these things over here on this other list are never enabling. Like, that's just not how it works. Chances are things are going to be going back and forth on those lists. So something that's enabling today might not be tomorrow. It just really depends on where your child is on their journey. Like, things are going to change as their addiction escalates. And then things are also going to change as they start moving towards sobriety. So an example of that is when my daughter went to rehab last year. I think it was like, she was in the program for like 60 days. And then the last 30 days was IOP, which is intensive outpatient program. And they were living in an apartment building during that phase of the program. And so insurance wasn't paying for the whole thing. They were paying for the program, but not her living expenses anymore. So I chose to pay her rent, and I chose to send her money for groceries. And once in a while, I gave her some spending money. And those are things that when she was in active addiction, I wouldn't have done most of those things, right? So those are things that changed for me, especially the paying rent and giving her spending money. But before that, when she was in active addiction, I would not have paid her rent and I would not have given her spending money. But I did always give her food, and I brought her groceries sometimes. I like to take her out to eat, one, just because it felt good to me, right? Like, we want to do things that feel good to us as parents. We get to create those wins for ourselves. We're not getting the natural good feelings of parenting that we were experiencing before addiction. So whatever we can do to create those opportunities for ourselves to feel good as a parent are really important. And the other part of that is I got to create connection with my daughter. And of course, connection leads to influence in your child's life. It was an investment in our relationship. It gave me an opportunity to spend time with her. So I was looking at providing food for her as a way to strengthen our relationship, because no matter what, they're always going to want food at some point. And if they associate you with food, then they're going to come to you and ask you for it, and it's going to create opportunity for that. But what I want to point out here as well is that you get to decide what's right and wrong for you and your family. Like, nobody is better suited for that than you. You always know what your child's state of being is. You know them better than anybody else. You know if they have co-occurring disorders or what other challenges they're dealing with. So sometimes dealing with addiction can really eat away at your self-confidence as a parent, right? Because this is so hard. You start to doubt yourself. But I just want you to keep reminding yourself that you are the best person to decide what's right and wrong for your family when it comes to thinking about what's enabling and what isn't. I mean, even when I'm coaching somebody and they ask me, like, is this okay? Should I do this or that? My response is always, let's talk about it. It's never yes or no, because they know what's best. Sometimes you just need somebody to help you talk through that and get through all the fears and all of the ways that your brain is telling you that it won't work, so that you can get to those answers. But we all have those answers inside of us. And I just want you to keep reminding yourself of that. And the next part is, I want you to think about enabling as a roadblock. So when you're trying to make a decision and you're worried about enabling, it's going to make the decision really difficult and confusing and really just heavy because of all of the judgment and stigma associated with enabling, and nobody wants to be the enabling parent. So instead of asking yourself, does this enable my son or daughter to use substances? I want you to ask yourself, does this reinforce a positive or desired behavior? Does this reinforce a positive or desired behavior? Because that's a much higher quality question. It's a question that is going to open up your mind to the possibilities and help you create more opportunities for connection and engagement with your child, so that you can have influence, because that's where the gold mine is. That's the whole goal of CRAFT, is to help you become more involved with your child so that you can have influence and you can impact change on their life. And in the Parents 20-Minute Guide on page 22, they gave an example of buying a gym membership, which I think is a really great example, because if you're focused on trying not to enable, you can pretty much talk yourself into how anything is enabling. So even with the example of the gym membership, you could tell yourself that if you buy the gym membership for your child, then that's extra money that they're going to have, right? If they had spent their own money on the gym membership, then they would have less money to spend on drugs. And so you can come up with how pretty much everything is enabling that when you approach it that way. But if you're focused on reinforcing positive or desired behavior, then you can see where you paying for the gym membership is actually a win. Like, if they're going to the gym and working out and being healthy, that goes a long way towards moving them away from abusing substances. And so that's something that you want to reinforce. It makes the decision so much easier, lighter. It removes some of the confusion. And it also feels better, right? It's just another one of those opportunities to get a win for yourself as a parent, to feel good about what you're doing for your child and how you're supporting them. And the last thing that I want to share is that you're the most important positive reinforcement for your child. Like, I really want you to start thinking about yourself as the positive reinforcement. So the whole purpose of positive reinforcement is to make good things seem more attractive to your child, right? And so when you yourself are a positive in reinforcement, that means it feels good to be around you, right? Your child feels loved and supported by you. Then instead of you going to them all of the time, they're going to start coming to you. They're going to come to you and ask you for your opinion on things. They're going to share what's going on in their life with you. And that's just going to create more opportunity for you to have influence. My daughter, she used to ask me for my advice all of the time. Now, she didn't always take it, but she kept asking me because when she didn't take it, I wasn't like berating her or telling her she should have done what I said. I let her make her own decisions, but she felt comfortable and safe coming to me. So a big part of your response to your child, like, I want you to think about, what would you respond well to if you were going to somebody for help? Like, what can you do to make yourself more attractive to them? And if you're feeling resistance to anything that I'm saying, right? Like, maybe you're in a place where you're really angry, or you're feeling really guilty and you've been beating yourself up. That's okay. I think it's great for you to acknowledge that and just know that it's something that you need to keep working on, that you need to be taking care of yourself, putting on your own oxygen mask on first. You probably need some boundaries. You can still keep working on learning craft, but at the same time, I want you to just put more intention into taking care of yourself. And as you do that, a lot of those feelings of anger and guilt will, like, they'll naturally work themselves out. So don't beat yourself up for that either. It's just a part of the process. It's something that we all go through as we're trying to figure out our way in this incredibly difficult journey. So just to summarize, if we enable, it's just because we want relief and we don't know how else to get it. Enabling is not black or white. So it changes as your child's addiction changes or they get sober. Instead of focusing on not enabling, I want you to focus on reinforcing positive behaviors. That's where it's at, reinforcing positive behaviors. And remember that you are the most important positive reinforcement. If it feels good to be around you, then that's going to give you more influence and more opportunity to impact change.